There's something that I often hear, and it really saddens me. And I'd love for people to use God's Bible rules. So that way we wouldn't say things that will discourage people from wanting to become a Christian. And that is when people say we are slaves to Christ. The Bible only says the word slave twice. The first time you find it is Jeremiah 2 verse 14. And the question, it even asks the same question. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Right? They're wrestling. Are you a servant or are you a homeborn slave? What's going on here? The second verse that we'll find it in is Revelation 18 verse 13. And it's speaking about when Babylon is going to fall and the coming judgments. And it's saying cinnamon odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. They're all gone. You don't own it. It's not yours. John 8 verse 36 says, "If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed." And that's something we need to understand. We are not slaves to Christ, we are free. In 1 Corinthians 6 verse 12 it says, "All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any." It's talking about, as a Christian, we're free. We can do whatever we want, right? We can choose to murder. We can choose to commit adultery. We can choose to worship other gods. But it doesn't benefit us, right? And when we do those other things, then we become under bondage because sin means you have to die. There's no choice in the matter, right? A servant means, when we're servants to Christ, it means we choose to serve you. When I go into service for somebody and I'm working for somebody, I'm choosing to serve them. But if I decide I don't want to, I don't have to. Then they don't have to pay me, right? Bondman in the Bible was teaching the same thing too. When you were a bondman in Israel, you were freed after the Jubilee. At any time, somebody could come, like you're a family member or something, and pay for you to be released. You were not owned by them. You were not a slave. When Joseph went to Egypt, he was sold as a slave, but God's like, no, no, you're not a slave. And he set Joseph free. And all of Israel lived in Egypt, not as slaves. In the beginning, none of them were slaves. They were all just kind of bondmen. They were working together. And then as a ruler came along that didn't know Joseph, then it started to slide into slavery, right? We think about Babylon, when all of Israel went into Babylon. They were there and they were going to be set free after so many years. And you can see through what happened with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel that they were not slaves. They had positions. They lived among them, right? They weren't slaves. I just want you to know that Jesus came to set you free. I want you to know that God has Bible rules, and by these Bible rules, it's going to weed out all these Bibles that are teaching things that are not Christian, right? I know a lot of people love the New King James Version, but it's a once saved, only saved version. And it says you're a slave to Christ. That is like the very first lie that Satan brought in Eden when he told Eve, that is not true. Right? It was this deceptiveness, like God's holding something over you. She had the choice to eat it, but he wanted her to think that she was a slave. My friends, let us be free. Let us love God and know that that grace is a free gift. We can't earn it, we can't buy it, and it's not something forced on us. Jesus loves each one of us, and he chose to die for us. Let us honor him by choosing to love him. But it's not something you have to